NYPD. Hands behind your head. The door to the VIP room slammed open, and there she was. I was half naked, caught red-handed in a vice raid led by my childhood friend, and Crush, the most beautiful cop on the force. She stared, her eyes cold steel, right past me to the scantily clad masseuse cowering in the corner. I clutched the towel wrapped around my waist, shivering. Chloe, I can explain. I was lying on a massage table at the Serenity Wellness Spa, the warm water swirling around my feet, so blissful I could have purred. So, Liam, what do you think? Leo, on the table next to mine, gave me a conspiratorial wink. Told you number 8 was the best. Best hands in the business. Number 8 didn't just have the best hands. She had a killer figure to match. I nodded, my eyes half closed. Yeah, she's great. I've been pulling so many all-nighters. My shoulders feel like concrete. That's what you get for being a workaholic. It's just one ad campaign. Was it really worth 3 sleepless nights? Leo said, slipping into a perfect imitation of his sister's scolding tone. Liam Bailey, if you don't start taking care of yourself, next time I'm gonna... Just then, the door to our private room was kicked open with a deafening bang. NYPD. Everybody, hands behind your head. Don't move. The shock jolted me so hard, I almost rolled off the table. 5 or 6 officers stormed in, led by a woman whose face, framed by her police cap, was more familiar to me than my own, Chloe Davis. Time froze. There I was, shirtless with nothing but a flimsy towel for cover, and there was Chloe, in full tactical gear, her badge glinting, looking impossibly cool and professional. Our eyes met. I saw a flicker of shock in hers before it was replaced by a mask of cold professionalism. But I knew her too well. The tiny twitch at the corner of her eye gave away her mortification. Chloe, we're getting legit massages. Leo yelped, scrambling to his feet. It was Liam. This was all Liam's idea. He dragged me here. I almost coughed up blood from his sudden, shameless betrayal, but my terror was focused entirely on the Arctic frost forming in Chloe's eyes. A legit massage, she sneered, her sharp gaze sweeping every corner of the room. Then why the VIP suite? Why a co-ed session? I finally noticed that number 8 had silently retreated to the far wall, her face pale as a ghost. Chloe's eyes darted between the masseuse and me. Number 8 was wearing a uniform that clung to her curves, looking a little too risque under the dim lighting. The male officers behind Chloe began searching the room. One of them lifted a panel under my massage table. Captain Davis, we've got something here. My heart plunged into my stomach. Chloe strode over, pulled a small bottle from the hidden compartment, and her face turned to stone. Liam, she said, her voice laced with a disappointment I'd never heard before. Explain this. I looked. I nearly fainted. It was a bottle of Fleet Enema. That's not mine. I waved my hands frantically, the towel threatening to slip. I grabbed it just in time. I swear, I just came for a massage. ID. Now, she said, all business deliberately avoiding my eyes. Seriously? Sis, you're gonna card us? Leo asked in disbelief. Shut up. Chloe shot her brother a death glare before turning back to me. Liam, my hands fumbled for my wallet, nearly losing my towel again in the process. Officer, we really are a legitimate business, the masseuse stammered, panicking. She should have kept her mouth shut. The moment she spoke, Chloe's face, already grim, hardened as she shot me another venomous look. Chloe quickly checked our IDs. After confirming they were legit, she gave a stiff nod and gestured for the masseuse to leave. You two get dressed. You're coming down to the precinct to give a statement. I nodded mechanically and started pulling on my t-shirt. As the fabric scraped against my skin, I realized my back was drenched in cold sweat. Leo was babbling excuses next to me, but no one was listening. Chloe turned to her team. Officer Miller, you and your team continue to search this room. Bag every piece of potential evidence. Officer Chun, get the security footage. She paused, her voice dropping slightly. I want to see everything from the moment they walked in. Chloe, I swear I was just here for a massage, I whispered, mustering the courage to approach her after I'd zipped up my pants. Leo said my back was a mess from being hunched over my desk. I've told you 100 times on the job. It's Captain Davis. She cut me off, her voice low but clear enough for everyone to hear. Save it for the station. Right. Captain Bunny, Captain Davis. Right. At the precinct, Leo and I sat in an interrogation room like two abandoned puppies for almost 2 hours. No one came to take our statements. No one even offered us a glass of water. Dude, you think she's doing this on purpose? Leo asked, spinning a pen out of boredom, leaving us here to sweat. Isn't that like cruel and unusual punishment? I stared at the "You have the right to remain silent" poster on the wall, not answering him. When we'd arrived, Chloe had handed us off to a young officer who then took a call and rushed off, leaving us with a curt, "Wait here." Hello. Earth to Liam. Leo nudged me with his elbow. "You've been like a zombie since we got here." "I need to use the restroom," I said, standing up just to escape the claustrophobic room. In the hallway, officers moved with purpose. I rounded a corner and froze, hearing a familiar voice. Chloe was standing by the door to the break room, talking to a tall, handsome cop. I instinctively ducked behind the wall. "Alex, could you write up the report for tonight's sting? I got to deal with a couple of acquaintances." Chloe's voice was softer than usual. "That childhood friend of yours again?" The cop, Alex, chuckled. "You always seem to go the extra mile whenever he's involved." My stomach dropped. They were that familiar. Chloe had never mentioned an Alex. "Don't be ridiculous," Chloe said, a playful chiding in her tone that I knew all too well. "He's just the kid from next door I grew up with." Leaning against the wall, I felt the air get thin. I'd always heard Chloe had a crush on someone she'd liked for years. I never heard her mention him by name. Wait, Alex Carter. The name rang a bell. I remembered her mom mentioning him once. Chloe was always talking about some colleague named Alex at the precinct. It had to be him. I peeked around the corner. Alex was smiling as he handed Chloe a cup of coffee. He was tall, at least 6'1", with a handsome, friendly face and laugh lines around his eyes. The quintessential good guy. As Chloe took the coffee, their fingers brushed. She pulled her hand back quickly, but not before I caught the ghost of a smile on her lips. A sour, acidic feeling churned in my chest. I silently retreated back down the hall, my urge to use the restroom completely gone. Back in the interrogation room, Leo was absorbed in a game on his phone. "What took you so long? Thought you fell in." I ignored him and slumped back into the chair. My mind kept replaying the image of Chloe and Alex standing together. They looked so right. Both cops, dedicated, around the same age. "Hey, what is wrong with you?" Leo finally noticed my mood. "You look like you saw a ghost." "Nothing," I said, rubbing my temples. "Just tired." Leo eyed me suspiciously, but didn't press. The room fell silent again, punctuated only by the sounds of his game. My thoughts drifted back to when we were kids. I was 6 and she was 8 when I first met her. My family had just moved in next door. She was standing in her yard in a white sundress, her hair in a high ponytail, looking like a little princess. I hid behind my mom's legs, but she marched right over and handed me a lollipop. "I'm Chloe," she'd said, with the gravity of a tiny general. "I'm your big sister now." And from that day on, she was. When I got picked on by older kids in elementary school, she was the one who stormed over to defend me. While I failed pre-calc in high school, she tutored me every day after school. The night of our senior prom after party, when I got stupidly drunk, she was the one who piggybacked me all the way home. I got used to her being my protector, used to calling her my big sister, used to running to her with every problem. It wasn't until her high school graduation that I saw her standing on the lawn for photos, laughing in the sunlight, and my heart did a complete free fall. That was the moment I realized my feelings for her had morphed into something far beyond brotherly affection. When she left for college out of state, my world felt like a bland, unsweetened cake. I lived for the holidays when she would come home. "Liam," Leo's voice snapped me back to the present. "My sister just texted. Said to hang tight. She'll drive us home after a shift." Oh, I mumbled. This was officially the worst day of my life. Getting busted in a vice raid by the woman I was secretly in love with. "Speaking of which," Leo said, suddenly lowering his voice. "Have you noticed how much she's been talking about that Alex guy lately?" My heart seized. "You know about him too?" "Of course. My mom won't shut up about it," Leo said with a roll of his eyes. "It's all, Chloe's finally opening up, and that young man seems so nice. It's driving me crazy." I try to sound casual. "Are they dating?" "Who knows?" Leo shrugged. "She's super private." But he leaned in conspiratorially. "I saw them at a coffee shop last Sunday, laughing and everything. Last Sunday. That was the day I'd asked Chloe to a movie. She told me she had to work. The sour feeling in my chest intensified. I nodded mechanically, pretending to be fascinated by the precinct seal on the wall. 4. The precinct was emptying out. Leo had fallen asleep, his head on the table, snoring softly. I watched the clock on the wall, each tick of the second hand a hammer blow to my heart. Footsteps echoed in the hall. I sat up straight. The door opened, but it was Alex Carter. "Sorry for the wait," he said with a friendly smile, holding 2 bottles of water. "Chloe asked me to check on you guys." Chloe. He called her Chloe. So casual. I forced a smile. "Thanks. We're fine." Alex handed me a water, his eyes lingering on my face for a second. "You must be Liam. I've heard a lot about you." "Oh yeah." I twisted the cap off, trying to keep my voice steady. "What did she say?" "That you've been a handful since you were kids," he said with a grin, but his eyes were kind. "But she cares a lot about you." Cares. The word felt like a splinter in my heart. An older sister caring for her younger brother. That's all it was. "Officer Carter," I said, summoning my courage. "Are you and Chloe?" "Close. We get along. We came up through the academy together." He glanced at his watch. "She should be wrapping up. I'll go hurry her along." After Alex left, Leo suddenly sat up. "Man, pretending to be asleep is exhausting." I jumped. "You were awake?" "The whole time." He stretched. "So that's Alex Carter? Dude's handsome. Kind of a Ryan Reynolds vibe. No wonder my sister." "Shut up," I muttered, though I couldn't deny it. Another 20 minutes passed before Chloe finally appeared. She changed out of her uniform into a simple white t-shirt and jeans, her hair pulled back loosely. She looked exhausted but still fiercely beautiful. "Let's go," she said from the doorway, her tone flat. "I'll take you home." Leo shot up. "Sis, I'm starving. Can we get food first?" Chloe glanced at me, as if for my approval. I avoided her gaze and nodded. "What do you want?" she asked. "Whatever," I said softly. "The usual spot, then," she said, turning and walking away. Leo and I followed. As we passed the main bullpen, I saw Alex at his desk, finishing up paperwork. Chloe paused. "Alex, want to join?" My heart sank to the floor. Alex shook his head. "Nah, I've got to finish this report." He nodded at me. "See you around, Liam." "See you around?" "I hope not." I managed a tight smile in response. Outside, the cool night air hit my face. Chloe's car was parked at the curb, and Leo had already dived into the back seat. "Get in," Chloe said, opening the driver's side door. I stood frozen on the sidewalk. "Chloe, that guy, Alex." She turned, her eyes bright in the moonlight. "Nothing," I said, shaking my head and getting in the car. "Let's go. I'm hungry." 5. The usual spot was a barbecue joint we'd been going to since we were kids, a 30-year-old dive bar with the best damn food in the borough. The place was packed as always, but the owner, a gruff woman who'd known us forever, found us a table on the patio. Leo ordered our favorites without even looking at the menu. Then, possessed by some strange demon, I added, "and an order of the Rocky Mountain oysters." When the plate was set down, both Chloe and Leo stared at me in disbelief. "Liam, what the hell?" Leo was the first to speak. "Since when do you eat that? How do you even eat that?" I put on a brave face, speared a piece with my fork, and popped in my mouth. "With your mouth, Leo," I said through a mouthful. It wasn't half bad, actually. "Why the sudden need for a boost?" Chloe asked, her eyes narrowing. She suddenly grabbed a nearby broom that was leaning against the wall and pointed it at me. "You were at one of those places. Your mom told me you don't even have a girlfriend." The sudden move stunned me into silence. This was bad. There was no explaining my way out of this. I held up my hands and backed away from the table. "Whoa, easy there, Chloe." "I can explain. I was just curious what they tasted like." She didn't say a word, just stared at me with those ice-cold eyes, slowly advancing on me, dragging the broom behind her. I felt a primal fear I hadn't experienced since I was 12 and broke her favorite snow globe. My legs started backpedaling on their own. She stalked me across the patio, broom in tow, looking like some kind of avenging Valkyrie. Just then, a group of tourists walked by. One of them remarked loudly, "Wow, this city is so dedicated. Even the janitors have so much attitude." A snort of laughter escaped me before I could stop it. Chloe heard it. Her face flushed a deep crimson. She looked down at the broom in her hand, then back up at me, her eyes a mix of humiliation and familiar, murderous rage. "What's so funny?" she hissed, though the corner of her mouth was twitching. I slapped a hand over my mouth, but it was too late. A full laugh broke free. "Guys, come on," Leo called out from the table. "The food's getting cold." Chloe took a deep breath and leaned the broom against the railing. "Liam Bailey, get over here. Now." I cautiously returned to my seat. She picked up a spicy sausage link and took a vicious bite, as if imagining it were my neck. The rest of the meal was tense. We ate in silence, the air thick with unspoken things. Then, a guy at the next table started talking loudly on his phone. I know we broke up, but then he texted me last night asking for a booty call. A booty call? I said no, and he goes, "Come on, we both have needs. Why not just have some fun?" Can you believe the nerve? I told him I'd rather hook up with my dog. My neck almost snapped. I turned to look at the guy, and he caught my eye. He gave me a suggestive wink. That was it. I immediately flagged down the owner, paid the bill, and got our leftovers to go. As we walked away, I saw Chloe's shoulders shaking. She was trying and failing to hide her laughter. 6. I stole a glance at her profile as she drove. There were faint, dark circles under her eyes. She must have been exhausted lately. "Chloe," I said, working up the nerve. "That cop, Alex, is he your boyfriend?" The car screeched to a halt at the side of the road. Chloe turned to me, her expression one of utter disbelief. "Who told you that?" "And nobody." I stammered. You two seemed really close." "Liam," she said, taking a deep breath. "Are you an idiot?" I was completely baffled. "Huh. Alex has a fiancée. They're getting married in the fall," she said, shaking her head in exasperation. I shot upright, my eyes locking with hers. For some reason, my heart started hammering against my ribs. "Oh," I heard myself say weakly. That's great." From the back seat, Leo erupted in laughter. "Ha ha ha. Liam, are you jealous?" My face felt like it was on fire. "What? No, I was just asking." Chloe started the car again, but I saw the corner of her mouth curve into a smile. "Liam, how old are you now?" 25. I answered, confused. "Right. A 25-year-old man," she said softly, "and still as dense as you were at 10. When we got back to our apartment complex, Chloe pulled over. She glanced in the rearview mirror and made up some flimsy excuse to get Leo to go upstairs first. As he left, he shot me a look that was a mixture of good luck and pure, unadulterated mischief. The moment he was gone, Chloe turned to me. She grabbed my wrist. "Come with me." Her tone left no room for argument. She pulled me through a series of alleyways until we reached a small, deserted park. In the moonlight, her eyes were dangerously bright. "Liam," she said, taking a deep breath, "are you, really desperate right now?" "What?" The question was so blunt it nearly sent me stumbling. She shot out a hand and grabbed the hood of my sweatshirt, yanking me upright like a kitten by the scruff of its neck. In the pale light, the tips of her ears were glowing red. She stammered, fumbling for her phone. She swiped a few times and shoved the screen in my face. It was TikTok. The trending hashtags were hashtag Rocky Mountain Oysters and hashtag Why Men Really Eat Them. The related topic at the bottom was the nail in the coffin. Hashtag signs your partner is suddenly taking supplements. "And you went to a spa where the masseuses are dressed like that," she said, her hands nervously twisting the hem of her shirt. "That place is obviously shady. You're never going back there again." She was about to continue her rant when her phone's speaker blared to life. "Okay, so story time." She frantically locked the screen, her face a mask of horror. The air went dead silent. We both froze. I could practically see the steam of social death rising from her head. Chloe, I think those two people over there are making out. Maybe we should move." "Oh, right." She nodded, her face still bright red. "So, do you want to?" "Huh? See, can we?" The question slipped out of my mouth before my brain could process it, probably fueled by the 2 beers I'd had with dinner. "So, maybe just one kiss." I scratched the back of my head, suddenly shy. "I don't know. Is that okay?" "Is it not okay?" Chloe asked, putting her hands behind her back and tracing circles on the ground with the toe of her shoe. The warm summer night breeze drifted between us. I watched her eyelashes tremble, and suddenly, everything clicked into place. "Chloe Davis," I said, using her full name for the first time. "Do you like me?" Her expression froze, like I'd hit pause on a movie. What? What are you talking about? I, yes. So what if I do? Is that a crime? She took a sharp step back, but the blush creeping up from her neck betrayed her. Under the moonlight, she tilted her chin up defiantly. My heart was trying to beat its way out my chest. The only sound I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. It's okay. Of course it's okay. My voice was barely a whisper. Because I never finished the sentence. She closed the distance between us in a single step, grabbed the collar of my shirt, and pulled me down. The next thing I knew, her lips were on mine. The kiss was clumsy and tentative, but full of her signature stubbornness. I could feel her trembling, but her grip on my collar was vice-like. Close your eyes, you idiot, she mumbled against my lips. I obediently closed them and carefully wrapped my arms around her waist. She stiffened for a second, then melted into me, her hands slowly releasing my shirt to tangle in my hair. I don't know how long we stood there. All I remember is that when we finally pulled apart, we were both breathless, our foreheads resting against each other. Liam, she said, her voice husky, her eyes soft. Do you have any idea how long I've waited to hear you say that? You were always behind me, calling me Chloe, your big sister, over and over. It drove me crazy. A constant reminder that's all I was to you. I looked into her glistening eyes and realized just how blind I'd been. All those times I dismissed her concern as sisterly affection. All the times she'd coincidentally brought me my favorite pastries. All those late nights she just happened to be passing my office when I was working late. It was her carefully, quietly, loving me all along. I'm sorry. I thought you only saw me as your little brother, I said, gently wiping away a tear that had escaped the corner of her eye. I was too stupid, too scared to confess. All I could do was love you in secret. You moron, she said, lightly pinching my side. What kind of sister obsesses over her little brother 24/7? So, Alex, just a colleague. She rolled her eyes. I only mentioned you in front of him to see if you'd get jealous. The pieces fell into place. So today, at the precinct. Yep, I left you in that room on purpose, she said with a triumphant grin. Serves you right for good a place like that. Was number 8 really that hot? A chill went down my spine. I didn't notice. She let out a sharp laugh, then suddenly grabbed my face with both hands. Liam Bailey, you are in so much trouble. The next second, she was kissing me again, this time with a punishing force that left me weak in the knees. That's your punishment, she announced. Her cheeks flushed. From now on, you're not allowed to look at other women. Yes, Captain Bunny, I said, snapping to attention with a salute. She burst out laughing, a sound so beautiful it took my breath away. I couldn't help myself. I leaned in and kissed her again, taking the lead this time. Our perfect moment was shattered by an ill-timed noise, and we reluctantly pulled apart. Ahem. So, Leo emerged from behind a large bush. Not trying to spy, but, sis, Mom wants to know if you're coming home for dinner tomorrow. Chloe sprang out of my arms, mortified and furious. Leo Davis, were you following us? I swear on my life. Leo held up his hands in surrender. I was just cutting through the park and saw you two acting out a scene from a rom-com under the streetlight. Leo looked from me to his sister, a beatific, fatherly smile spreading across his face. So, Liam, should I start calling you brother-in-law? Leo. Chloe lunged at him, but he ducked behind me. Save me, bro. I spread my arms, blocking Chloe's path. Now, Captain Davis, police brutality is against the rules. Leo held up his phone. You know, a video of this moment would be perfect for the wedding slideshow. So sweet, shipping my own sister. This is amazing. His grin was infuriatingly smug. You too. Chloe stomped her foot, but then a laugh escaped her. Whatever. Let's go home. She turned and started walking. Leo and I hurried to catch up. As we passed under a streetlight, she stopped, turned, and held out her hand to me. What? I asked, confused. Isn't a boyfriend supposed to hold his girlfriend's hand? She said, a challenge in her voice, though her ears were beet red. I quickly took her hand, our fingers lacing together perfectly. From behind us, Leo shielded his eyes. Ow, my eyes. The brightness, it burns. Shut up, Leo. Chloe snapped, but she squeezed my hand. 3 days after we officially got together, I was sitting at my desk, staring blankly at my computer screen. My phone buzzed. A text message popped up. Free tonight? I want to have dinner with you. You're Captain Bunny. I broke into a goofy grin and quickly typed back. Ready and waiting, Captain. Ever since that night in the park, Chloe had become a different person. At work, she was still the decisive, no-nonsense cop. But with me, she showed a side I'd never seen. She was playful, she got shy, and she sent me the most ridiculously cute emojis. Director Bailey, you look happy. New romance. My colleague, Sarah, asked, passing my desk with a mug of coffee and a gossipy smile. I quickly composed myself, clearing my throat, just focusing on the project. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a picture, a selfie of Chloe in her uniform, standing in front of a mirror. The caption read, off to catch bad guys. See you tonight. She rarely sent selfies, let alone one in her uniform. I stared at the photo for a full minute before I noticed something in the corner. On her desk was a bright pink binder with the words wedding planning written on the spine. I nearly fell out of my chair. We'd been dating for 3 days, and she was already planning our wedding? I raced to the restaurant after work. Suddenly, Chloe appeared in front of me, her face serious, holding a manila folder. Liam Bailey, she said, her voice official. I have a case that requires your assistance. I stared at her, completely bewildered. Huh? What case? Chloe walked toward me, her expression unreadable, and handed me the folder. You're a person of interest in the felonious trespass of a police officer's heart. The evidence is overwhelming. You'll have to come with me. She held the straight face for about 3 seconds before she burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. You should have seen your face. Captain Davis, that's abuse of power. I protested, trying to sound offended, but I was already laughing with her. She leaned in close, whispering in my ear, her warm breath making me shiver. So, are you going to arrest me? After dinner, she led me to her car and handed me a blindfold. So, where are we going? I asked. She winked mysteriously. On a date. I took the afternoon off. This is very cloak and dagger. Just trust me, she said, pinching my cheek. I put on the blindfold and felt the car pull into traffic. About 20 minutes later, we stopped. Okay, you can take it off, she said. I removed the blindfold, blinking to adjust to the light, and then I froze. We were parked in front of a bridal shop. Is this? I stammered. Chloe was already out of the car and had opened my door. You're helping me try on wedding dresses. Wedding dresses? My voice went up an octave. Chloe, we've been dating for 3 days. She tilted her head, a mischievous glint in her eye. What, mister? Bailey, don't you want to marry me? It's not that I don't want to, it's just... I fumbled with my seatbelt. Isn't this a little fast? Fast. She started counting on her fingers. We've known each other for 19 years. You've liked me for at least 8, and I've liked you for, about 10. If you ask me, we've already wasted too much time. I stared at her, speechless. I had no idea she'd done the math. Besides, she said, her voice softening, her expression turning tender, I know you already bought a ring. My face flushed. How? How did you know? A detective's intuition, she said with a proud smile. So, since we both want to get married, why wait? I looked into her sparkling, expectant eyes and finally understood what it meant to be completely and utterly smitten. This girl, who had alternately protected and terrified me my entire life, was looking at me with so much hope. How could I possibly say no? I let out a sigh that was half laugh, half surrender. Captain Davis, are you proposing to me? She nodded, completely unabashed. You're going to marry me eventually anyway. Why not just make it official? Looking at her hopeful face, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small box, the gift I had planned to give her on our 1-year anniversary. I was planning on a more romantic setting. I opened the box, revealing a delicate ring, but it looks like I won't get the chance. Chloe's eyes widened, her lips trembling slightly. Is this? She took the ring reverently, examining it in the light. Our initials were engraved on the inside. Her voice choked with emotion. She threw her arms around my neck and buried her face in my shoulder. I held her tight, feeling the warmth of her body in my arms. In that moment, I knew what destiny felt like. Liam, she whispered in my ear, let's get married. Next month. I smiled and kissed the top of her head. Okay, whatever you say, Captain Bunny. 10. The wedding happened in a blur. When Chloe walked down the aisle in the dress she tried on 3 separate times before finally choosing, the entire world seemed to fall away. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, dappling her in colored light, as if heaven itself were crowning my bride. At the reception, Chloe changed into a stunning red dress, a pearl pin I'd given her nestled in her elegant updo. She clung to my arm as we made our rounds, a blissful smile never leaving her face. "Sis, you look like you're drunk on happiness," Leo said, raising his glass. "Brother-in-law, how did you manage to tame this tigress into a kitten?" Chloe shot him a look that could kill. "Leo, are you looking for trouble?" "No, no." He immediately hid behind Alex Carter. "Alex, save me." Alex laughed and raised his glass. "To the happy couple. Chloe's famous for her temper at the precinct. Liam, you've got your work cut out for you." "Alex Carter." Chloe feigned a punch, but I caught her and pulled her in my arms. "It's okay," I said, kissing her puffed-out cheeks. "I have a thing for hot-tempered bunny-themed cops." The guests roared with laughter. Chloe, blushing, buried her face in my shoulder, which only made them cheer louder. Later that night, I'm exhausted. The moment we were in our hotel suite, she kicked off her heels and sank her bare feet into the plush carpet. Getting married is harder than arresting a felon. I wrapped my arms around her from behind, resting my chin on her shoulder. "So, wife, shouldn't you be calling me something else now?" She tensed at the word wife, her ears turning a familiar shade of red. Who's your wife?" "Legally, you are," I said, smiling as I turned her around to face me. I gently removed the pins from her hair, letting the long, soft locks cascade over her shoulders, smelling faintly of roses. She looked up at me, her eyes shining like they held all the stars in the sky. "Liam, have I told you?" she said, her hand coming up to cup my cheek. "How handsome you look today." I leaned down and kissed her, swallowing the belated compliment. Her lips still tasted of lipstick and champagne. I deepened the kiss, holding her until she was limp in my arms. What happened next was as natural as breathing. We were both new to this. We fumbled, we explored, and our first time was over in less than 3 minutes. She propped herself up on an elbow, looking at me with genuine concern. "Should I take you to see a doctor tomorrow?" "A doctor? For what? That's totally normal. It'll be fine in a minute," I said, my face burning, my neck stiff with pride. "Fine is fine. Not fine is not fine," she muttered, pulling the blanket up to her chin. "In a minute isn't a thing, Liam." 11. The rest of the night was a vast improvement on our first attempt. The next morning, Chloe was asleep in my arms, a contented smile on her lips. I gently brushed a stray strand of hair from her forehead. She wrinkled her nose and snuggled deeper into my embrace. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Leo. "Brother-in-law, how was the wedding night? Did my sister kick you out of bed?" Before I could reply, Chloe stirred and opened her eyes. She groggily reached for my phone, read the message, and was instantly wide awake. "That little brat." She furiously typed a reply. I snuck a peek at the screen. "One more word out of you, and I'm setting you up on a blind date with Mrs. Henderson's 250-pound daughter. I hear she's available." I was shaking with suppressed laughter. Chloe tossed the phone aside and turned to pinch my cheek. "What are you laughing at? This is all your fault." "What did I do?" I asked, feigning innocence. You too," she stammered, waving her hands. "You're ganging up on me." I laughed and pulled her closer. "Wife, it's the first day of our new life. Shouldn't we be doing something more meaningful?" As it turns out, I was more than capable of rising to the occasion. Chloe was a very happy woman, and I was a very, very tired man. 2 months later, we were walking home after dinner. She was tucked under my arm, her head resting on my shoulder. "Liam," she said suddenly, "I put in for a transfer." "What?" I stopped walking. "What?" She looked up at me, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "The detective squad is too demanding. I want more time to spend with you. I'm moving to a community policing role. 9 to 5, weekends off." My heart ached for her. "You don't have to give up a job you love for me." "It's not just for you," she said softly. "It's for our future little bunny, too." It took me a full 3 seconds to process her words. Are you saying?" She nodded, taking my hand and placing it on her still flat stomach. "I'm a month along." I scooped her up into my arms, and spun her around on the empty street, her yelps of surprise echoing in the quiet night. "Put me down! Police! I'm placing you under arrest." "Arrest me, then," I said, holding her tight, "and sentence me to life. In your heart, the Yendi."